Welcome to another episode of Morelia Python Radio. We all love rough scale pythons, Morelia carinata. But one of the difficulties you could run into when breeding them is that they can be tricky to get established. But no fear, we have some tips and tricks that may help you get through that process. They're somewhere between a carpet python and a green tree python. Once you get them established, they're good to go. So in this episode, we discuss some of the tips and tricks for getting roughies going and growing. This is episode 548. Let's get into it.
Okay, that happens.
Yeah.
Everybody's different.
All right, welcome to another episode of MPR. In this episode, we're going to talk about getting baby rough scale pythons established.
Yay.
I figured this would be a good topic. We've never dove into this, and Owen is what do you got? 2 clutches under your belt now?
Two clutches. Yeah, 2 clutches in 1 year.
Okay.
This year does not look that great for roughies, but it is still early. Yeah, I have 1 pair going right now, and it's one of those like she's here, he's here. Like it's like she's up high, he's down low, and I'm like, they don't seem to like each other right now. So I might chuck him in with the other female, but we'll see.
I would say that before we get into it, the calendars are available if you want one.
Yay!
Our calendars are available. You can follow the link down in the show notes. Other than that, I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to do housekeeping wise?
You said this is coming out on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Cool. If I saw you at the Oak Show, hi.
This is Owen from the past.
This is Owen from the past.
Well, apparently, no, you're from the future.
So this is what grinds me about several things. Is my mother always told me she would never come to a reptile show, even to support me, because she just couldn't do it. Couldn't possibly do it. My nephew, her first grandson is like, Nona, can we go to the reptile show this weekend to see Uncle Owen? And she's like, of course. So now she's coming. My nephew's coming. My sister's coming. Like it's insane. And he's bringing his reptile encyclopedia so that he can walk around and identify reptiles.
That's awesome.
I'm like, yes. Good.
That's
good,
so cool.
Padawan learner. Like, yes. Makes you feel so much better when you have a tortoise, when you have someone that's like, yep, he's going to be your problem at some point. So, yeah.
Yeah. He's in the will to.
Well, he asked me and Melissa point blank the one day. He's like, can I have Mort when you guys die? And I'm like, wow.
Okay.
I mean, yes, but damn. So,
well, before we get into that, let's talk about this real quick, because this might be a quick, interesting topic to hit on. So we're about to get pummeled with a snowstorm again.
Yes.
We've just had a snowstorm past Tuesday.
Yes.
Going to a show in a snowstorm. Do you do anything differently? Are you prepared for that? Or
I mean, I have a box
plead the fifth.
I mean, younger Owen has done dumb things. And there have been 2 instances where I was driving through a blizzard to get to, I'm sorry, there were 3 instances where I was driving through a blizzard to get to a reptile show. One was a Reading show up here that we woke up to just getting pounded by snow. And we crawled at like 15 miles an hour all the way to the convention center. And we were tucked in this tiny ass little room in the convention center. And people were literally like doing donuts in the parking lot for fun.
Okay.
For fun, people were doing this.
Okay.
And I sold every Jaguar I brought with me. And I brought like 12. And this is when they were like $700. So
really?
Yeah. So sometimes that show showed me that I have no fucking idea what is going to happen at shows. That you can see them be like, aha, these will sell well. I have no goddamn clue. Like it was, I thought we were like, there were instances where I wanted to turn around, and I'm thankful that we did not. But if you did that and then you goose egged on that show, didn't sell, I'd be pissed. So we did that. There was no special prep. There was no special after prep. Of course, you brought I had heating elements for the table, which I still do. And it's kind of evolved. I used to have a heat cable that I would like wind all around into everything.
Yeah.
And then Mike Curtin showed me these things. They're called seedling mats.
Okay.
And they look like little reptile heat mats, and they have a little dimmer switch on them. And they're supposed to be for little seedlings that you put on your windowsill or something.
Okay.
And this is supposed to heat them. Well, wouldn't you know it, the measurements of these little seedling mats match an acrylic tier from like ARS freaking perfectly. Like it's perfect. So
that's awesome.
I have a bunch of those now, and then I have a big mat for my big displays. So I'll probably plug them in. And I do have a temp gun in my show bucket to kind of temp. And then that's good because you just kind of turn it, you can fuck with the dial and stuff like that, keep everybody warm and checking and stuff like that. So I definitely do that. But I know a lot of people that don't even bother with heat. And that always kind of seemed to bother me a little bit. It's especially in certain venues, like Oaks is a venue that you can drive into when you're setting up. So they're going to have this garage door open, and then all the cars are going to come in, and it's going to be cold as hell. So
similar to what we experienced at Tinley, right? They had that big door open.
Right, exactly. So I kind of feel like having the heat and all that stuff. I will definitely be bringing. I have a box of heat packs like for shipping. Yeah. And I bring those as like a worst case scenario. Like if my car breaks down or tire goes bouncing off that way or something like that, and I'm stuck someplace. Sure. I mean, the car will probably keep running, but if something really bad happens and I got to wait for Melissa to come, I'll throw heat packs in. Again, it's not that far. The other time I went in a snowstorm to a reptile show I was on my way to Tinley Park with Andrew. Yeah. And we hit his blizzard, and we actually, the interstate got shut down and we got routed through like back roads. Now he has a giant Tonka toy truck, like on giant tires and things like that, which do you ever want to feel like a badass in the snow? It's like, nothing can kill. I did. Many things can kill you. Many things. So so that was fine. We just kind of took it slow and did all that, but we didn't have any animals with us. Brings us to the third time I went to a reptile show, and it was post blizzard. Like, so the snow happened the night before, and my mother's like, "Are you sure you want to leave to go early?" And I said, "I'll be fine." I was going to meet Mo and Jason down at Havre de Grace, and I was dropping off a female to go with Mo. And I was driving down this hill in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden, I start going like this, which is odd. The car's not supposed to go sideways. Lost total control, hit the curb, smashed into a lamppost and a bank sign. Airbags deployed. It was all kinds of fun. But I had a snake with me, and I had a bunch of feeder rats. So cops all at the scene, all that fun stuff. I had friends come by, and it must have looked illegal as shit because they rolled up, and I handed them this snake and this pillowcase. And what I hadn't realized at the time is that the rats had exploded all over the car. So there were frozen rodents, like after the cops had come and talked to me a couple times, I realized that there was a frozen rat right on the dash, like just sitting right there on the dash. And I'm like, yep. Okay. So I managed to get all those into a bin and give it to my friends who came by, and they drove off. And so I would say definitely when you're going to go to a reptile show in this inclement weather is, take your time and obviously realize that the worst case scenario that would have happened that day, if I just delayed another hour, is we would have been there an hour later, because by the time my friends and stuff drove past, because they still went, it was an hour and a half later anyway. So
right,
it wouldn't have really mattered. So I'd say don't push it. Obviously, take into account that you have live animals. We aren't stamp collectors, so you do have to keep that in account. So, fire up the car before you go get it, before you start loading up. That's probably the main thing. Is I'll have to get up earlier to start my car, because when I bought my car, I bought it and I said I don't need the bells and whistles. But now I've gotten older, and I'm like, Melissa has
I want heated seats.
I know.
I miss my heated seats.
Melissa has like a remote starter and heated seats and all this other shit. And I'm like, I guess I'll just crank my seat back like the olden days. Like, it's stupid shit.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's weird. It's weird when the older you get, the more, like, depending on where you live, but here in the Northeast, it's like remote starter is like,
oh my God,
that's so nice. That's so nice.
My God.
I love just looking out my window and going click.
Yeah. Yeah, how awesome that would be when doing reptile shit. I would set my alarm, wake up, hit it, and then by the time I'm out of the shower and shit like that, it's time to start packing and the car's warm. Like,
yeah.
If anybody wants to know what they can get Owen for Christmas, it's a remote starter and it's goddamn 2016. Jesus Christ.
Very good.
In case anyone is listening. So
I remember, I guess it was a Tinley we went to, but I remember it being colder because typically it would be in October.
Right.
And I used to take my animals in a big styrofoam, like something that you would, like a fishing cooler, but but a shipping box thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe, I think I got it from work where they would transport like medicine that had to be refrigerated. That they
got it. Okay.
So it's like it's basically a big cooler, but styrofoam. So I would put a heat pack in both sides of it and just put the animals in there for the transport, just like I was shipping them. And
that's
never had no problems with them.
Kohler, so like I usually show up animals in displays. So does Balin. Kohler always brings them in a separate like shipping box, and then he goes through and puts them all into the displays, and he sets them all up, and he sets his prices and stuff like that. And he'll usually have heat packs in there if it's kind of cold and crummy. But he's got such a long drive coming from Altoona.
It comes from
So, but then like there's some instances where like we talked about it. I think it was Tinley Park. I tried to offer my guys water because I'm like, so they were packed up on Thursday. They were with us all day Thursday and Friday. It's now Sunday, like, and we're not gonna be home till Monday. Like, I need to, like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So I remember giving them water. I think it was, I think I did it like Saturday. Right when we were getting ready to leave, I put a bunch of little deli cups of water in their cages. So, which is something else that I don't think a lot of people think of. It's,
no, especially for a 2-day show,
well, it's travel time makes a 2-day show a 4-day show. It's like 2-day show, 2-day travel. It's like, so
it's I guess if you're going to somewhere like Daytona in the summertime, you probably don't necessarily have to wear. Well, I would think maybe you have to take into consideration overheating, right? But other than that,
I mean, it's shipping rules. When do you feel most comfortable shipping? When it's kind of cool outside, when it's not hot, when it's not freezing, but kind of cool, because then I know the animal will handle whatever's thrown at it, and if it gets real dicey, they can throw a heat pack in there. Same freaking rules for going to a snake show. If it's hot as balls outside, like, I'm terrified for the snake, and like know it. And if it's freezing outside, I think it's going to be like, because this is a weird one, because the show's on Sunday, so I'm like, oh,
it's not Saturday.
No, it's Sunday. So tomorrow I'm like, I should get all the animals ready and do all this stuff after work. Oh, wait, I don't have to. So, it's going to be 16 degrees with a high of 30 on Sunday.
Okay. But I think the snow should be cleared up by then, right?
Oh, yeah. The snow's only going today and tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is good. Yeah, I don't got to do anything Saturday.
Well, I hope by next show we can talk about how well you did.
I mean,
we will already know.
Yes, when this comes out, I will already know, if not be cursing it. Yes, so,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then the next show after this one is the first one at the new Hamburg spot.
And what date's that?
End of February 24th. So I have my trip with Rob before that, where if Rob ever wanted to kill me, this is his chance. We're going to be in the middle of the woods in Tampa, and I think people would believe him if he's like, listen, I tried, but he got eaten by an alligator. People are like, that sounds about right. So yeah.
Oh boy. Rob's plotting his
Rob's like, what? No,
of NPR.
His subtle takeover. First, he's got to go be a co-host on another show, and then he's got to kill me, and then it's no one would count it the wiser. Yeah,
excellent.
Yep,
and little Mr. Burns in him.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about rough scale python. So. I guess before we get into the babies, I'm curious, just because it's breeding time this year. When you bred them, what was the time frame month-wise? Was it at the beginning, in the middle, at the end?
So I did the introduction for the first ones pretty early, like normal carpet python stuff, like introductions in maybe around this time, like January. But I don't think I got any kind of lock or anything like that till later. So let me just see, because of course I have it photographed. The first lock was February 15th. So I was putting them together, separating, feeding, stuff like that. So we were well into the warm up, because like we say, we normally start warming up around Valentine's Day. So it was kind of right around that point. So saw the first lock then. And they did get pretty cozy with each other. I didn't see any additional locks out in the open. But the eggs were not laid until April 29th is when she started. April 30th is when I stopped screaming. So, it was just like a little day thingy.
Okay.
So, February, March, April. So, I mean, the February locks are what did it, because if she laid at the end of April, she was pregnant throughout February and March. So there you go.
Okay.
And then after she laid, I put him in with the other female, and I saw nothing. No action, no locks, no nothing, no cuddling up with each other, maybe kind of sharing a hide box. But she was also the smaller female, so I was like a little bit more wary of her. And she dropped on July 17th. So that's well into spring breeder territory, in my opinion.
Okay, it's saying, I think the stat I looked was on that natural history of the rough scale python was 85.8 days was the mean basically from mating to egg laying.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, because I did the one, I was only going to do one clutch, but then I got squirrely and said, why the hell not? And I threw him in with the other female shortly after the eggs. I got the eggs from the first female. So that would make a lot of sense. They're pretty much on point there. But I did not because the first clutch hatched on June 30th.
Right.
And then the second clutch arrived July 17th. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. I found it interesting when I was researching, putting notes together for the show. When you look at the graph that they had in the more complete carpet.
Yep.
Basically, the rainfall is like, just shoots up. It's like nothing.
There it is. Yeah, up in the ceiling. Right.
Yes. So it starts ramping up in October, which would be spring, right?
Right.
And I want to say that that's about when they start breeding. Yeah, it's like was it? Yeah,
I didn't actually
around that time.
I didn't increase like misting or humidity or anything like that. I just kept. I maybe had them do a little bit of a cycle feed, and kind of then kept feeding them throughout the warm up. So like maybe I turned them off for about a month, maybe as far as food goes, and then started feeding heavy when we did the warm up. And that was just because my one female, the younger girl, she had actually been sick earlier in the year, which is why I didn't really want to breed her, because I wanted to put more weight on. She started eating like a freaking horse. She was hammering food, like mediums, larges. She was anything that was going into her freaking mouth. And then same thing goes with the other two, the bit larger female and the male. Like they were just waiting. Like right now she's curled up like on the top of her bin. This look, you can kind of see her.
Right.
But she's hungry. Like she's looking. She's there because she's looking. But like they'll be locked in that S position, kind of hanging down. So
you find that it's important to sort of feed them at this point?
Yeah, I mean when they warm up,
especially the female.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I mean both girls looked like shit after they laid their eggs.
So when you're doing that, are you doing it like? Are you just doing it once a week? Large meal, small meal, medium meal.
Every
more
14,
frequent.
Every 14, maybe not more frequent, just larger. It's usually larger. My thing is I don't want to do more frequent. It's just bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. But like right now, she's still on her normal stuff. But then next month, I might up both the girls up to larger food, especially because if I'm still seeing no action from the other ones.
Gotcha.
Then yeah.
Okay. I should say, I just when I was just talking, I was talking about the graph and all, and I was talking, there's really no information about the breeding in the wild, so to speak. And a lot of the information that Weigel got was basically from collecting the wild ones and putting them in captivity.
And seeing what they did.
Observing them. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that, I'm not.
And I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to be like, I don't know why we don't just go research it. Well, because they're kind of hard to get to. And it's like, that'd be a lot of money and a lot of things to just go sit out there and watch one.
Well, I sure would love that job, though.
I mean, sign me up, but
yeah.
But the issue is like, why are we looking hardcore into a species of python that we can't get to stop breeding? Like, I mean, they're endangered in their native range and they're endangered in the wild because they have such a niche little output. But there are so many in captivity in Australia, Europe, US. Like the fact that I have more than one rough scale here shows you just that they're not as rare or endangered. So
as far as they're being endangered, I don't know whether or not I think the cane toads have sort of made it to Mitchell's Plateau, but I don't know if they're in the area. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're still. I think that's correct. However, one of the things I found interesting was the fact that they are. They believe that they probably feed on frogs.
Yeah,
and probably skinks when they're babies.
Yeah,
in the wild.
I'm glad you told me that because I do still have one annoying baby, and I'm like, fucking frogs! It's gonna be goddamn frogs again. But I did not try frog scenting. So guess what we're doing this weekend.
So, but the messed up thing is like as adults they readily take rodents,
right?
And apparently, there's that whole story of like why do the rough scale pythons have such long teeth?
Right.
And they're sort of in this evolutionary battle between this species of rat that sort of sheds its fur when it grabs it, and the idea is that they've evolved these longer
fish
teeth
hooks
to sort of get past that,
Yeah.
Which I want to say that I'm pretty sure that they have the longest teeth of any python species. Green trees are right behind it.
They are rather large. I'm not sure if I can show it to you, but I have one.
Yo, you have a tooth.
This is one that came out of while cleaning.
Of your hand?
Yeah. No. Yeah, it was one of those moments, when you clean and then all of a sudden you're like, ow, and then you're like cleaning like this. And so there was a tooth in my hand, and this is a small one and it's broken, so I'm not sure where that one came, but it's not they have some long ones here and up top that are just huge. So
right. Okay. And I guess they used to think that green trees had that because they were trying to get birds.
Right.
But they found out that birds really don't make up a huge part of their diet.
I would say that, I mean, exactly. It's like, could that be for birds? But could it be for rodents? Could it be because frogs are slippery? When this is your only way of grabbing something, I'd want giant fish hooks
with your mouth.
Yeah. I don't want to miss either. So, yeah.
I don't know. I found that interesting about the frog thing. And then, the thing that would make me nervous would be the fact that cane toads would move in.
Babies go after the cane toads.
Yes. They're already in a, serious spot where their habitat has pretty much they're like in these little pockets of monsoon forest.
Little niche area. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be devastated to learn that they get horribly impacted, if not labeled as some sort of endangered extinct species.
Yeah, there is a group of them that are off an island there. I think they found one on that island, but the idea would be that if you were going to conserve them, that would be the place to put them, because the thinking would be that the toads.
But that's such a shitty thing to be like, now we're going to keep you on this island, and I guess the mainland is for toad land now. Like, I don't fuck the toads. Like, and that's what really upsets me, is that it's like, so basically all of Australia is just going to be cane toads and saltwater crocodile.
Well, I think that I can't remember this. I can't remember. I want to say that they're coming up with something that might be able to sort of at least kick them back a bit, cane toads. But I got to tell you, man, when we were in Southeast Queensland in whenever it was, 2022, I guess it was.
Yeah.
At the end of 2022, we went to this one. We were staying at the spot, and we went for a hike around. It's sort of like rainforest habitat or whatnot. We went to this pond, and we're like looking at the ground, and it's like kind of like looks like it's moving. There's all these tiny toadlets.
Oh god,
everywhere, dude. The ground was just it was like a blanket of toadlets. It's
oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you combat them, because like, what is the worst thing that happens to frogs is when something happens in the tadpole or the toadlet phase or something like that. Like, that's where you kind of attack it. So it's like, how do you kill the toadlets when they're small and stuff like that, or how do you handle that situation? And it's like, it's hard. And I know people constantly say something like, like when we've talked about it before, I'm like, cane toad should be wiped out and people shouldn't let their cats outside. They're like, well, what about Burmese pythons? They suck too. Like, I had a free book, and I got Invasive Python of America, which is a book about the Burmese python. But I guess it was written with that crappy science, because there's a map in there that says like where the Burmese pythons can spread. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like,
yeah.
Nevada? Yeah. Why? Like, no, like, it's no chance in hell.
I think the thing with them is, I think I was listening to Zach talk about this with the Burmese python. Apparently there's some kind of invasive parasite of some sort that are affecting the pygmy rattlesnakes. And they believe that it came from the Burmese python. I hope I got that right.
God damn it.
But
that would suck.
Yeah, that's pretty. So, when this whole thing about like, well, what about your?
They all suck.
Just to death. But
are they native? No, then they suck. It's like
Yeah. Anyway, with that being said, the frog eating of the rough scale, if that is in fact what they would, and it only makes sense. I mean, if you're looking at baby Morelia carpets, I would even say green trees, and I would probably even say a lot of.
I think a lot of
it's probably either take kinks or frogs of some sort. And it makes them vulnerable for when the invasion of the cane toads comes to the northwestern Kimberley. So,
Jesus,
I mean, you can use that to your advantage when you're trying to set.
I mean, I can use that, but I'm telling you right now, if I hear that they're coming, I'm gonna hold the line with a flamethrower. Like they will not over my dead body. You're like, no. So.
Having some flashbacks.
Yeah.
So typically they have. So let's talk about the clutch size real quick before we get into it. I think I guess that's sort of average to small clutches. 10 to 14 eggs is what I see. It seems like they hatch out. You tell me. Somewhere between a carpet and a chondro. It's like 16
I mean, it's not
grams is what they hatch out at.
Yeah, you had the small ones. I mean I had some small guys in there that I would consider fragile, but I've when you have twin carpet pythons and you're like, my God, like they weren't as bad as that. I was expecting baby chondro, and they were bigger than that. They were a little bit bigger than that. I did not weigh them because I don't do that. So I know that did not happen. So I think I got in the first clutch was 16, and then the second clutch was 10.
Okay. Yeah. So 10 to 14 eggs is that's about right. Okay.
And like I said, she was massive. The other one was normal size.
Okay. And so what I was reading is basically once they get going, the growth is pretty.
Oh my God! My God!
Fast. I think you were talking about this on the last show, where it's sort of like that olive python thing. It's like
they just go.
You're just growing.
I mean, the problem is that they're so small, and we both know that pinkies have nothing to them. So I started them on fuzzies. So and we've had that moment, when you up a snake from you now will be taking large mice, and when you do that. The snake just explodes size-wise. They just grow.
Right.
So these guys, I'm like, here is a fuzzy. And then they ate it. And I'm like, that may have been a little bit too big for you, but we'll see. And they didn't puke it, which is my, going thing of, is it too much? And they just exploded. They just grew. And they keep growing. And to the point now where it's like, I'm looking at them and I'm like, you guys are so beyond that fragile little baby stage, but I keep wanting to handle them with kid gloves. I'm like, no, it's okay, gentle. They didn't bite me yet, but they've come here. I'm sorry, darling. They've started to figure out the process because they're all in these bins right here with these latches and stuff like that on top. So they've started to learn the sound of the latch. So I'll do that. She just popped out her head. I don't know. So she's she heard the latch and she's like, what's up? So they started to figure that out.
So once they're going, they're pretty
they're eating machines. They're eating machines.
Okay. All right.
I mean, there are a couple that I've had to continue teasing just because they're just reluctant to eat, or I caught them when they were sleeping. But most of them, you undo the latches, you open that bin, get the hell out of the way, put the food in front of it because they're coming. And the joy you feel about that kind of Melissa caught me when I finally got all of them off of quail, and except for the little non-feeder. I don't count her. I'm still working on her. But I was up here giggling like an idiot. Like I was cackling because I'm like, hey, it worked. It worked. They're all happy. Like, God damn, like, you know. I'm sitting here I've sold one. And then these two down here have your name on it. And I'm like, and I've picked my two. I picked a male and female for myself. But then I'm like, well, if this one has to stay, it can stay. Like it, yeah. Slowly build my army. But yeah,
I think if they're on track, right? I was reading that basically at 18 months the males will be of age, like breeding age, and then 30 months would be females, you know.
I mean, I have a juvie from Terry Burwell. He's on large mice. And I mean, he's about a year and a half old. And it's like he would be, you know, and we had that thing like, and his last shed, he did throw sperm plugs. But it's like he's so small. Like I don't want to. Like I'm like, nah, buddy, you got another year. Like I'm reluctant to put him anywhere. I mean, I don't need to put him anywhere yet, but I got him as a safety net because my male did get sick this past year after the eggs hatched, and I had this like flash in my brain of holy shit, if he dies, like I have to wait how many years to do this again? So. I got my little boy up there as a safety net. So
always have a backup.
Oh yeah.
I think they.
What was you're not trying unless you got 2.2, and I was running around with like a trio, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Yeah.
So
I think it's about 3 feet or so. It's like when be an adult, 3.5 feet, something like that. Probably females with 4 to 5 feet, something like that.
I mean, I would say carpet thing. I mean, my original female that I bred and got those 5 eggs that tore my heart out, flipped it around, put it back in. She was about 4.5 feet, and I thought she was good to go. In hindsight, I wish I'd given her another year.
Okay,
but she only laid 5.
Hurts. It never hurts. I think with them being so closely related to green trees, which are typically a smaller size python. They're one of the smaller ones. So I sort of look at everything with them as like somewhere in between a green tree.
Kind of or not. Like which way are we going to go? We're going to go green tree or we're going to go carpet? Like,
right.
I was concerned about that, about how well they would do with the eggs. Because, in the back of my head was always Buddy Buscemi being like, and then I lock her in there so that she can't get out and she has to take care of the eggs. It's like, well, okay. Like,
right.
There was, my girls didn't miss a beat. They were on those eggs. They had them wrapped tight. They were fantastic.
Okay. I'll have to look this up because you just triggered something in my head of thinking, right? Like, there has to be a reason why that green tree would be leaving those eggs. And I think the water python study where the water pythons would like sometimes, mid incubation period, they would just take off and that would be that.
Right.
And I think the thinking is that the temperatures are a lot more stable from where they're from.
Yeah, there's no point in me staying here anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, why are you going to expend that energy if, it's,
I don't know.
Need to, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe it's because we're looking at captive green tree pythons that are from a bunch of different places. And, maybe a little.
Well, I'm thinking like, since they're sort of like, in that sort of tropical area type deal, is it like, are they conditioned to think that this kind of.
This is good enough.
Oh, these temperatures are good amount, maybe,
right.
I don't know.
I mean, and maybe who's to say she wouldn't return to the eggs?
Or it could just be a broken snake.
Yeah, that was dumb. Yeah, I don't know. That was just a terrible mother. Like, it's all right. Yeah,
just a lot of speculation. It's hard to nail something down when you're just talking about a one-off type of thing.
I mean, the fact is,
it's interesting to talk about.
There is that answer too, where it's like you can sit there and you can peel back the layers of the onion, and it could just end up being this snake sucks. Like, okay, well, all right,
yeah. It's like,
and we can overanalyze it. Maybe it's just her. Maybe she's an idiot. Like, okay, yeah.
Okay, so typically with Morelia, well, I sort of just said this, but like typically with Morelia, you in general, some are more difficult to get going, some are a little easier to get going. But I think it's just comes down to that old fashioned thing that we're not necessarily giving them what they would be eating in the wild, and for some of these, especially with some of these that are not have been bred as much as say like I don't know, ball python or corn snake that was just going to take it right out of the gate.
These are the same rats that my ancestors 15 generations or 3 weeks ago took. Like
I made a post over on the Morelia Pick of the Week, and basically I was asking if anybody, that we were going to talk about this topic, and did anybody have any sort of experiences or whatever the case would be, and I think it was Darren. That basically, and you were sort of like, damn it. Sure.
Of course. I mean, of course yours that way. I mean, what else?
So Darren Boswell, he was saying that he got his pair from John Weigel back in 2007, which is pretty freaking cool. To get it right from the source, and basically heavily scented mice that were scented with quail. And took him 12 months to get them off of the scenting. And they were from F1 from wild parents. So, the quail thing, seems to keep.
All right. So, I would say that if Owen McIntyre in 2010, when he was doing carpet pythons and stuff like that, hatched something like a rough scale python, it'd be nothing but pure panic, and I would have fucked this up 18 million ways to Sunday. But
sure,
we've been down these roads. I've had entire clutches that have kicked my ass. I've done Morelia. I've also done like this. The roughies happened after the white lips and things like that. And the olive python. So they're my couple years with olive python. So I very much got into the mindset of give the animal what it wants and basically present it with things until you get it. And some years are going to be better than others. Like I was talking to you about my rhinos this year, that they all took fish scented pinkies the first offering. And I had one that had to go to the store and get minnows for. And then after that, it took fish scented pinkies. So it's like, I guess I didn't even have to fire up my minnow tank this year, which is awesome.
Oh, really?
Next year, I'm probably going to have to get a goddamn 20-gallon minnow tank because nothing's going to eat. So I already know this. So with them, I knew quail was definitely going to be something that I was going to have to hit because the quail did fantastic for olive pythons.
Yes.
And I just got this year's olives are all off of quail and quail scented. Like that happened this past feeding. So,
okay.
But that's the thing with if you have an olive that is reluctant to eat anything,
quail,
show it a goddamn bird. It is, oh my God. And the Cornix quails, they're perfect size for a baby olive. So those babies, I'm like, do you want a mouse? They're like, no. And I'm like, all right, here's a quail. I'll pull out quails and mice and then see which one you go for. If you don't go for a mouse, you're going for the quail. I've seen olive pythons turn their head and then the quail shows up and they snap it back around.
Immediately.
The same freaking thing happened with these guys. So
so were you using button quail with them?
Yes.
From the gate?
So when I started the feeding for them, so I had the original 16, and they were the female back there is I have to split one more clutch with the person who owns her, and then she's 100% mine and things like that. So there was a split that happened. So I offered 2 times before we ended up splitting the clutch, and he took his and I took mine. So the first 3 times I offered just fuzzies. So here's a fuzzy, take it or not take it. I got 4 to take fuzzies straight off the bat. And the rest, all some biting, some whatever, which I had waited a couple weeks after.
That's what I was going to ask. Shed?
At the shed. Okay. And then I waited, I think, maybe 2 weeks before I offered food. One, because it was just a timing thing, and also I was nervous as hell. So
how long did it take them to shed? First shed?
First sheds. Hold on.
Who's got the book now?
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Let's see. The first ones, they hatch. I don't know why I'm looking on here. It's on their cards. I'm looking at it right here. What the hell I'm doing that? All right. So they hatched April 30th.
Uh-huh.
Really? That doesn't make any sense. No, the eggs laid April. Damn it. I'm on the wrong thing. When the hell did these babies hatch? June 30th. They hatched June 30th.
Right.
No, wait. Fucking goddamn it. I'm mixing up the two things. Hold on. Now you got me all kinds of turned around. So late April, May, June. Yeah, June 30th. And they shed July 14th is when they started. So
okay, so like 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. So 2 weeks, and then they got their first offering on the 29th.
Okay. So basically like about a little less than a month.
Yeah.
You waited until they got settled in and whatnot. And
hungry and stuff like that, because otherwise you're just going to be sitting there doing nothing. So, and this girl, the one that I keep pulling, she actually ate a fuzzy first one out the bat. So,
in my experience with getting difficult carpets going, I think like, God damn, man, I had so much troubles with like albino stuff and everything, trying to get that established. And I finally came to the conclusion that I waited, about a month, right?
Yeah.
It was about a month that I didn't really do anything with them, let them settle down, didn't really bother them. You know, we check on them and whatnot, just make sure
change their water, make sure they haven't killed themselves. Yeah.
Right. But you're not in there like constantly prodding them and sort of like, trying to get them to eat right away. And I found that that was pretty successful for me.
I would agree.
That time period with them just taking it right away.
Right. I forget who told me. I want to say it was almost like Riley or some other people, where it's like feeding them right after their shed is just a good way to find your overachievers and then piss off everybody else who was already on their way to being a good feeder. It's like, wait,
that's so
just
good.
Wait, let them be. They need to be hungry. Like they need to be hungry. So after I tried with the fuzzies, then I attacked everybody with fuzzies with chick down on them.
Okay.
And see who took the scented fuzzies. And then after that, anybody who hadn't taken anything up till that point was given a quail. And we're talking like button quail. And like I told you, it was night and day. So I had fuzzies with a chick down on it, and the baby roughies running away. It's moving away. It's not looking. And then you lower the button quail in there, and this baby just like slowly turns its head around. And they do this tongue flick thing, and then they just push their entire face up against the fuzzy or the quail. So it's like up against it, and then they just open their mouth and just clamp right on it.
Is it a slow tongue flick? Is it a?
It's a normal tongue flick, but then they get so close that they can't stick their tongue out all the way. So it's like this little thing that just is hitting this quail, and then they just
the force
right on it, like it just yeah. So then they just clamp right on it, and then I kind of wiggle it around. They throw some coils, and then they just eat it. And they have these huge lumps in them from these little quail, because the quail is like big head, little neck, big little little body. Like it was
right.
But then they just
like a dumbbell.
Oh yeah, it was. It's pretty much. So
yeah,
I did that, and then after that point, because the main thing is get everybody feeding. And then after that, it's get everybody big enough and healthy enough that you can start messing with their food. So it's like a couple. I didn't try to mess with how they were eating for I think 3 to 4 feedings.
Once they're eating, you don't want to.
Right. What are you eating? Fine. Whatever. Here it is. Right. And then when you're rolling, when you've had a couple sheds under your belt, after I've sexed all of them, which pissed them off royally, it's just keep
that
going.
I did do with Matt. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You want to talk about like,
yep.
I'm just like, wow, they're small. They're small.
I popped them and I was so nervous about how it was going to go. Yeah. And it went well with the first clutch, so well that I actually just popped like I would normally, like pop the babies when they hatched out of the second clutch. So, and
because, and we had the
tiniest
like
probes,
tiny little
probe, yeah,
it's like
little colibri probes.
Yeah, it's so small. I'm like, oh man,
I don't know what the hell to do with this. Yeah,
so I'm curious. Like, did you notice the behavior of them doing the typical Morelia, waiting at the bottom of a tree for something? Like the hanging
some
down.
Do so. The way this is set up is we have the little
let's talk
mesh.
About the setup.
Yeah,
right?
So we have the little like I forget the exact.
The garden fencing.
Yeah, these are 6-quart tubs with the lids on because they don't fit into this rack. So they have the garden fencing. Hi. So they have the garden fencing. I know he does. Yeah, this is the boy I'm keeping. So yeah. Okay. Anyway, sit there. So garden fencing, and it goes the entire length of the cage, and as you can see, they'll cling onto it and do stuff. He's dirty, so we're going to clean it. He's got a little water bowl, and then he's got his hide. Okay, that is a little plastic thing that takes up half the bin. So he can sit on top of that hide. He can go in that hide. He can do all that kinds of stuff. Can do whatever he wants. So,
and you're just using like paper towel for a substrate.
We are using newspaper.
Newspaper,
which is this paper.
Yeah, I forgot. You're the newspaper guy. I forgot.
Yeah, this paper that is the free things you can get at the front door of a Wawa that advertises books and other things like that. It fits perfectly into a 6.
I always wonder
who gets those things. Me. I am the reason those things are still there. Yeah. They think their readership is like through the freaking roof in my. Anyway, but they will hang off of these fencing.
I should give you our old circulars.
There you go, do it.
We just throw them away.
Yeah.
So they just hang down off the fencing.
I mean,
I guess what I was asking. The reason I'm asking is like when you were going in to feed them the first time, were you noticing that, and then that's what sort of led you to say, okay, let me try it, see if it goes. Or
some do, some didn't.
Okay,
like they would. Okay. Some of them would be on the fencing, kind of chondro pose, almost hanging down. Other ones would be when inside the bin. There's like a little, because the way that the curve of the garden fence goes around the hide. There's a little spot where the hide roof is still technically under the garden fence. They would be wedged all up in there with the garden fence resting right on top of their back. So they kind of, it's almost like a little makeshift
squeeze in
rock crevice. Yeah. Some of them would be inside the hide. So a lot of it was like, I wasn't sitting there watching and waiting for them to be out, because a lot of it after a certain point, they realized what was going on and they came to me. So like I told you, like you undo the latches and then they're just like I said, this guy is like ready to go. Like he just wants to, I don't know where the hell the food is, but give it to me. So.
Did you try drop feeding with any of the difficult ones?
I did, and it did not go well. So drop feeding was very much the, I did get a couple to do that. So when a few bit quail and stuff like that, they try to wrap them up. Some of them would let go of it, or they wouldn't really kind of do it with gusto. I'd kind of leave the quail on the garden fencing kind of hanging there. And then I did have one come back and eat it. But other ones that I had left, like fuzzies in there or some other stuff, no go. If it's not bit wrapped, it's not getting eaten. So I just started doing that. And some of them have been reluctant to eat, like if they're going into a shed. It's kind of hard to tell on such tiny guys, unless you catch them when they're like blue. So, but so far, a couple of the older ones from the first clutch are kind of just rolling. They like rock right through a shed cycle. Like they'll eat it and then they'll shed the next day. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you done any experiments with like different size? You know, like Brettles will take like you might try to feed them a hopper. I mean, you try to feed them a fuzzy and they don't really take it, but if you feed them something bigger, all of a sudden they're like,
So I ran out of fuzzies and I had to do small pinkies or large pinkies. Okay. So I ran out of fuzzies and I had a bag of large pinkies.
Okay.
And I fed that and I had a bunch of reluctance when it kind of came to that. I had a couple that were like not really that interested. They did eventually eat, but it was not like as switched on as they were normally. And then of course they were all cruising 2 days later because they ate a pinky. And the hell is that? There's nothing there.
I wonder if there's such a, I wonder sometimes with the snakes that do that, particularly in Morelia, but like, is it that they're so used to a certain size prey item that it's sort of like does the size of the prey really affect on whether or not that they would take it or not, you know?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, so I know for a fact that if I took a large mouse and threw it to my, 8.5 foot olive python, she'd probably trip over herself trying to get it down her throat. But,
right.
It's also like, it's got to be one of the things of like, what is worth the expending the calories to kill and eat this thing? So if it's an easy thing to kill, yeah, all right, I'll take it. But at that size, it's like, is it worth it? Is it whatever? So, but I will also say like, I've started like, because we're up in my office. So when I'm feeding, it's normally everybody downstairs gets fed. And then the last thing I do is bring the bucket of the roughy food up here to feed them. I've started like heating it up again in the bathroom right off of my office with the bathtub in there. So it's like super hot. And
you're running hot water over them?
Yep. So hot water helps. Okay. Getting them hotter helped with that kind of stuff. But like every time I fed, I'd have a bucket of fuzzies that were thawed out with some chicks, and also the button quail were in there. And then I'd have a bucket of just straight fuzzies. So it was like one of those, offer the normal fuzzy to the ones that are going to like pound it, who are already on normal fuzzies and eat it. And then you can spend a little bit more time with the ones that are on quail or on chick scent. You can offer them the normal, but when they ultimately refuse them, you offer them chick scent. So,
okay.
Like I had a quail feeder over here and it was, all right, I'm going to offer you the fuzzy. Okay. You turned it down again. Cool. Here is the chick scent. Okay. You turned it down. Here's your quail. Like finally, here's the quail. There you go. Eat your quail. And eventually you end up getting to the point where they take like the chick fuzzy, or some surprise, you can go from quail straight to normal fuzzy and you just rock and roll with, once you get them on the normal fuzzy, you just keep going. Like that's it.
Okay.
So I think I have one. They all think they're going to get fed. they're all roaming around.
They're hearing that clip.
Every single one of them. Like all the babies, moms are right there and there. Dad's hiding. And then my younger male's hanging down. Like everybody thinks they're going to get fed today. So,
right.
But it's, you kind of got to, it's almost like baby steps, like show it to them and kind of work it through.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the growth rate things. The one stat that was on that paper was basically it said growth rates of the two sexes are similar for the first year of life. And then, but the females tended to grow faster after that, right? So
I would agree.
And then the size difference between the two was statistically significant at 24 months of age. So the reason that I'm saying that is, do they go off food like typical males of Morelia when it's breeding time? Perhaps that's why that is that way.
My male did. I mean, my male did. Okay. My male did the and he took 2 weeks ago, but he was reluctant. Like he didn't want it. almost. But then he's like, well, if it's here, like it was kind of like one of those like,
right.
No, all right, fine. Like it was, but I would say that during breeding season last year, I was like hitting him in the face with the rat, and he's like, no, just get the hell out of here. And then I just threw him in with the girls. And it's kind of like once he passed through with the first female, because like last year, I remember he had his cage over there, and we'd be doing the show, and I'd see him up against the glass, just kind of like this. And I'm like, here's your rat. And he goes, no, I don't like he would go away from it. So I knew what he wanted. I knew where he wanted to be. So after he bred with the first female, he kind of settled, took a couple meals, and then I put him in with the second female because, again, he was running. So I would say they're very in tune to that kind of stuff. And I would not be shocked if a male goes off food. And they kind of seem – Marius always seems like he's one of those where he went off food when nothing was happening. Like when it was just winter. When he was younger, he would just be like, and no. And it's like, okay, cool. Thanks. So, yeah, thank you.
Not having any parts of it. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay.
So.
Okay. I think, what was the other thing I had on my, do you have like a, I kind of call it like I guess a kit would be the right word. Yep. Like, do you have like when you're, we'll walk through that. For,
like a kit for like feeding or for their stuff or what? What's a?
Well, just for like, are you looking at it like now that you've done it once? Are you like, if you're going into, just say that this year, maybe you get a clutch.
Yeah.
What would you have taken away from the previous year that you're going to do this time?
That I was 100% correct on the quail thing. Like, holy shit. Quail, right? Like it was, holy shit. So, that's my takeaway from the whole thing is like, I remember cause we talked about, button quail and I tried to source a couple and then, we heard
Jason Hood.
We heard through the grapevine that Jason Hood was producing some and selling them. And we I jumped on those and got those sent up here. And then now Chris sent me over quail eggs that have fully formed baby quail in them. So that's another option now is there's actually an even smaller bird than the one before. So,
so wait, it's in the...
Yes, it's in the egg.
Okay.
So the egg has been... The egg has been manually broken and I guess frozen or whatever. So when you thaw it out, you have an egg and then inside the egg, you can see a bird. So it's in there. Because I used a bunch of those. I used a couple of those eggs to feed and I realized that there were quail in them. And I'm like, no, I'll get other eggs for the damn cobras. Like so that is been because I had this baggie of quail feathers that I had that you would put the fuzzy in and just kind of like shake and bake it. That kind of shit.
Right.
That worked somewhat, but I kind of feel like if there was a shit ton of feathers on it, it also kind of turned them off from it. So I would say your kit definitely goes with obviously the cage setup, lots of perching, some nice hides. I love this rack because they're tucked in the back and they're enclosed, but they're kind of not because they can see each other and things like that. And a lot of light. Right. They're right up against this window, which is not great, but the heat on that's perfect. They run off of a Herbstat. I love these bins because they're 6 quarts and they have a lid on them. But then eventually I don't even need to move that much. Like when the transition comes, I'll have less babies and they'll be ready to go into the 15s, which are good because then it's two 15s. And then after that, I can convert them if they're still here into maybe a 32. I love those cages up there, the little ones that I got, because that's great for a rough scale python. It's tons of branches and and that's heated. There's a mat on the floor and there's a mat on the wall that heats that whole thing. So that's great.
Okay.
So that is the first thing is making sure that they feel secure warm, things like that. And then it's just offering, and it was having a method. So like my desk here is an L. So I would literally face this way, grab the baby, set it down, open it up, try to get it to feed. And if it bit and wrapped, and I had some that dropped.
Don't move.
Exactly. Last thing is like, so if it bit and wrapped and I had some that would drop them, I would slide it over here and grab the next one. So then I'm working with this one. There were a couple times where I had like 3 or 4 stacked up here as I was still moving through the other guys. Like that's it's a thing. It's a process. It's a, and we talk about that. It's a process for every year, everything of babies. I finally got my caramel Xanax Jag to eat unscented fuzzies this past week. Right. And he was a bitch. He was a horrible feeder. He was terrible. I hate Xanax. Like it's all of you can go to hell. Like it is. But it's a process. And then you get there and then you just keep feeding him and you do your normal thing. And in a year from now, I'm going to forget of how much of a pain in the ass he was until I look at his card when he's moving up from a 6 quart to a 15 or to a 32. And I'm going to look back at the feed things and be like, oh, yeah, you did piss me off a hellish amount. Like, that's just the way it goes. So the kit for them would be obviously get that set and then have the food offerings. Your food offerings should be obviously what you want to get them on, which is an unscented rodent. Okay.
Right.
So you have that.
Right.
And I would have a bucket of that, warm, everything all set. After that,
so we're talking rodent size. We're talking hopper, right?
Fuzzy.
Or fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
Okay.
Yeah, hopper. No, we're not there yet. We're going to be on hoppers for a while. Like it's going to take.
So this is like fuzzy that just got a little bit of fuzz on.
Yes.
It, right?
Yes.
Pinky with a little.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, fuzzy. Like I'm
people's
talking. Like,
sizes can be funny.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. That happened too, where it's like I fall out the fuzzies and I'm like, this one is too big for you. You could take this one. Like it's like some of them, because there are definite variations in the size between the first clutch and the second clutch, just because of these guys are about a month or two behind these guys. So yeah.
Okay.
So you have the fuzzy, straight up hot water, good to go. Then you have fuzzies that are, I thaw them out with chicks. So I have 4 chicks, which perfect because my Dunai male only likes birds. So every baby, he's on a baby feeding schedule because he gets 4 birds every 14 days and he just eats them, which now it's winter and he and the female are off feed, which means the false water cobra are getting chickens, which I have shit that will eat these goddamn birds. It's fine. So you thaw out the chicks, and I do that because also it's good you can pull the feathers off the chicks right then and there. Also in that bucket are any quail that are being used. Like I said, it's button quail. The Cornix quail are way too big for baby roughies. So that's the button quail. And then, like I said, it's trial and error. It's offer what you want, and if it doesn't take it, then offer the next thing. And if the animal gets too stressed or too shitty, like it's run all over the place, walk away. Just close it up, walk away.
Yeah.
Try again tomorrow.
Gotcha. So that's what I was going to ask. Like, what's the time frame between something that's reluctant to feed and not feeding?
What's good
to when you would try again?
So I offer the fuzzy, and if they don't immediately dive on it, if there's like some interest, but then they kind of keep doing their own thing or not really kind of going, then it's the fuzzy with the chick down on it. And then, because like you'll see the interest, it's immediate. It's either they want it or they don't. And if they're still reluctant, then it's the quail. And if they're still
it's not like when you sort of like, I have this trick where it
touch the neck. Yeah.
Or you touch like right at the neck and they sort of like bend and they automatically. I'm wrapped. I might as well just get. Shit!
I'll eat it. It's in my mouth. Like it's for them.
It's what the hell.
Pissing them off more than the neck thing was touching their tails. So we're talking like chondro bullshit right there. I haven't seen any called alluring, but they would be stretched out and kind of over here, and then you'd kind of like just touch their tails and they'll snap back around, and now you have their attention, and then you kind of dance it around and show them it, and then they bite onto it. I think I'm horribly spoiled that everybody is doing as well as they are, and that they're all.
Yeah, it seems like you didn't have that.
I would, if I was an egotistical
compared to some of the things that you.
I mean, exactly. If I was an egotistical dickhead, I'd be like, clearly, I am amazing. No, like it's just this turned out well. Like I think it went.
I wonder
well.
how much of that is your excitement for roughies, and you know what I mean. Like,
but that's the thing is,
I know.
Like, I would say these guys were as bad as the white lips. We had. So when the white lips hatched, I had some that were like rockets with teeth, immediate food, wrap it.
Right.
And then I had ones that were reluctant and had to get started on quail. Okay. And then they worked their way up. And I would say the same thing happened with olive pythons. So it's like these guys, for all that they are different. And they did I definitely do hoist the entire species onto a pedestal.
Sure.
So that was something that was kind of in my brain about it, but they were not as hard as they could have been. That does not mean that the next clutch is going to be easy. Like that's what I never try to sit there and be like,
right.
I will never sit here and say like, I have figured it out now. I'm the master of all Madagascar hognose. No, like it's a roll of the dice every fucking year.
Right.
Let's see how this goes. Shit. Like it's all right. So that's where we're at. I think I was extremely lucky with my first two clutches being as good as they are. I'm excited because I've thought about this a couple times with the two little. I have my two right here. They have their own shelf. Those are mine. Don't look at those. I'm thinking about because it's in my head because we've gotten to the point now where certain animals I have produced in carpet pythons and stuff like that have laid eggs and stuff like that, and I have raised their kids and their grandkids, and I'm like, God, I can't wait for it. Like those two at one point will be my breeding stock. Like, oh my God, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That I'm excited for.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to say as far as you were talking, the comment that Brett had made over in Morelia Pick of the Week that it's not too bad to get him going, but it's just about patience. And I think that really is what it comes down to with a lot of these things, just being patient and being able to understand when you're stressing them out and sort of back off, like you were saying.
This is something where, and I think that is the definite correct direction that we need to take with herpetoculture, because, the fact that a pinky pump was something that we felt needed to be on this planet.
Yeah.
Because, you want to talk about stressing the fuck out of an animal and me. I'm pinky pumped some of my first carpet pythons that I hatched because I didn't know that that's not what, that you shouldn't do that. Like, I thought it doesn't eat. You try, and then you know what? When it's near the brink of death, you use the pinky pump with the little serrated disc in it. It is a horrible goddamn thing, and I have it because eventually I'm going to get it framed and put it in a shadow box of bullshit. Like it was stupid, and the fact that I still see them at shows is ridiculous. So
you still see them?
Yes.
No shit.
Man, they're still sold in these fun little cases.
Those and hot rocks, man. They won't let go.
Stupid. But I have had to force feed animals and things like that. I had to force feed a couple this year. I have this little girl roughie that I've had to do a couple times. But going through the whole pinky pump bullshit, like the force feeding is the last straw for me because the amount of stress that you put that animal through, you have to come so far back.
When you say force feed, are you talking about like I usually equate it to assist feed. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're sort of putting the prey in the mouth and letting go. And
it's much easier with the roughie because her teeth are so long. And I started with baby quail leg, like the Cornish quail legs, like almost like a drumstick. and they would get caught up, and she would just kind of work it down. And then a couple quail. You know, when you open up a box or a bag of things, there's like a head over here and stuff like that. It happened with the quail. So I had a couple loose quail heads. So those two. She's up to now a full grown fuzzy, like a full blown, like large pinky. She'll do those, but she's very good at like getting it, working it, and then just being like, huh, and like just dropping it or throwing it out. Or, she's annoying as shit. If she wasn't a rough scale python, so
she would be Crebo.
Oh my god! So, I'll get her going. It's just going to take some time.
So Brett also made the comment that one of the things he looks for, like I was asking you about, what's like, are they doing the chondro pose? But he says once they start cruising at night, he seems to say, okay, they're cruising at night.
3, 4, 5. Like I'm look, they're all cruising. Everybody is cruising. Right now, and it like obviously they will ambush predator. So if they have an up high place and they're hanging down, they'll eat. Like my small male up there is hanging down, and that's just the way. But that's just the way he sits. The female is sitting right here on the ledge of her box. Again, that's just the way she sits. Now, I open that cage right now, I'm gonna get lit up. Like the other female down here is on the inner. She's kind of in her box, and then the male is. She's up here with her. He's in the box. She's up. Where the hell is she? All right, there's a female somewhere in there. So, if they're hunting, they're hunting. So whether they're cruising and hunting, whatever, if they're hanging and hunting, whatever, if I come in here with a rodent bucket and they were in their hide, now they're hanging hunting, because what they're going to do is stick their head out of their box and wait for me to open the door. And I've gotten to the point where it's like, say I opened the door and like the door opened and I turned around to get the rat and I turned back around. They are like gap bridging out of their cage, like 4 feet. Like they're like hanging, and then you just put the rat in their coils and they go right back, snap back in. So if they're hunting, they're hunting. So obviously to set yourself up for it, I'm not feeding in the morning time. Even if I have
Are you feeding in the night?
I'm usually feeding around evening, stuff like that, because I'll do other things and then I'll start thawing the food and then I'll go get the food and then I'll, feed as I go. It's usually around 6, 7 o'clock at night by the time I get in here for feeding. Sometimes earlier, sometimes not. Again, they're really good about knowing the scent and like what like food has arrived, and now they're going to investigate this.
I wonder. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm saying, like, if they're not investigating, like, I thought my second female was gravid, and then I wasn't 100%, and then I came in with a bucket of rats, and she didn't show up, and I'm like, all right, let's investigate further, and that's when I found her on the eggs, and I'm like, ha ha!
My suspicion was correct.
Suspicions were correct.
I wonder how much of establishing any snake, I guess, for the most part. But I wonder how much of a routine it is. Like, same time that you're offering them, the same way you're offering them, just setting that routine. We sort of see it with breeding the animal. So I wonder, how much that plays a part in them becoming established.
I think setting a routine, and you might not even notice you're setting the routine, but I think setting the routine helps a lot with establishing them, especially about getting feeding. That like we had that conversation of like setting the routine of going to the same rodent breeder every time. Like, that's a routine.
I'll tell you what, man, I've had a hell of a time with that sometimes. Like back in the day where before I was dealing with Cold Blooded Cafe, it would be like I got them from I got rodents from a local person, and then then I sort of like it was too far of a drive to get them all the time, and then I would pick them up from a show, and it would be like they don't take these, and then I don't know, it's just like once you get a rodent breeder, for me, I stick with them.
Yeah,
it's like, unless you're an asshole or something.
Yeah, you're a dick. Like it was. It's much easier to establish that thing, and it's and again, you're doing the routine by not even knowing. Like I put them down, unlock their bins. That's part of it. Like it's all signaling that food is coming. So, and they're not even at that point yet where they need to worry about other things going on in that cage. Now, I will say that a lot of times I'll be working here and like I'll get a little break at work or I'll have my lunch break and I'll do their waters because they're right here. Like, and I'll just end up doing all the waters of all the snakes in the room. And normally that's during the day. And normally they're just sitting either in a bin or crude. Like they're not about to light me up like what's about to happen over here. Like it's, So.
Right. So stay away from the bitey end at night.
Yeah. Stay away from the bitey end at night. I feel like that's good advice for all pythons, but let's go with especially with roughies. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Roughies and chondros seem to fall
roughies, chondros.
It's so funny. You have so many snakes you have to take care of. You're squeezing it in on your lunch break.
Dude.
Help me break.
I mean,
quickly I have to get these waters.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like you do this and then you slowly start to see benefits and trickle into stuff where it's like the trip to Tampa is funded off of snake sales. We're getting a new sofa. It's funded off of snake sales.
Man.
We're redoing the attic so that we can put storage and shit up there. And I bought that ladder and all that other fun stuff from snake sales. So it's like, it is definitely one of those labor intensive. I call it my second job because that's what it is. That's what it fucking is at this point. But if something were to happen and I needed to ditch, I would accept certain things. Like it would just,
Of course.
Yeah.
We all have our things we wouldn't ditch.
That's the hard thing is when somebody were like, if you could cut yourself down to a certain number of species, what would you keep? And I'm like, well, it's easy. I'd do roughies. Oh, but I like the Timors. Oh, I can't get rid of the white lips. Oh, my Argentines. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
Like it's getting worse. So
slowly your list becomes bigger and bigger. Yeah. Brett was saying that just so I put his info out there when he shared with us, he's had luck with straight frozen thawed small fuzzies. And if that didn't work, he tried to check down, similar to what you were saying. And if that doesn't work, then live, right? Live fuzzies. I'm curious. I wonder if he left them in overnight or if he sort of, because I've done that where I've left fuzzies in overnight.
I tried some live. Let's see who did live.
Yeah.
This one.
So you did have some that took live.
This one did live. Yep. Which now he's all jazzed up now. This one did live because I did have some live. He started with a frozen thawed and then didn't want it anymore. So I gave him a couple live and then he went back on the frozen thawed. So I do have.
When you offered the live, he took it right away?
Yeah. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I would leave a live in overnight because I wasn't too concerned about these guys with their setup.
Not a fuzzy. Yeah.
Not a fuzzy. Yeah. And also there's a ton of space to get away from it. Like even if it was like a pinky or a fuzzy and it was stressing them out, they could get up high. They could get away from it. You do a lot of things that it couldn't do. So I wasn't that concerned. But I did have some live because I did set up 2 boxes of mice to help with my own need to have hoppers all the goddamn time. Like all the goddamn time. And it's weird. It started with me buying like 10 live mice and then them not being eaten. And then figuring out that I ended up having a couple females in there and then finding out that 2 of the females were pregnant and then setting up one box and then setting up another box. And then I think all my original mice have gotten old and died. And now we're like on the 8th generation because when one of the adult mice starts looking a little long in the tooth and not so good, I'll just keep a live hopper of whatever that animal is. Like if it's a boy or a girl, I'll just keep an extra one. And then we just replace. And then we have a bunch of litters and stuff like that. But I have this point where everything kind of lulls out where I've replaced something and now we have to wait for it to catch up again. And then everything explodes. Like right now I have no litters in either of my mouse boxes because I have a female that looks like it's a pair in one cage, and I have a male that just got old enough to breed, I think, in the other cage. So now I'm just going to have, in the next 3 weeks, I'm going to have pinkies all over the goddamn place. Like, it's going to be just full.
Nice.
And which is great, because then you wait until they're hoppers and you take them out and do whatever. But if you have little ones that are reluctant to feed, you offer that. Like, I have the bamboo rat snakes right now. The male will eat everything and anything in sight. Female, I've got her to eat once, and it was a fish-scented pinky. So I'm waiting to I got to catch pinkies right when they're born, and then I'm going to throw one in there with her. See what she does. Right. So that's always a good thing to have.
You know, the fresh-scented pinky, or not fresh-scented pinky.
Fish.
The bamboo rat snakes. I was going to say, when you're saying that, I couldn't believe they were cool, really cool. I've never seen them like really looked at them in person, but when I came by your spot, I was
they're gorgeous.
But man, are they feisty?
They're gorgeous. They're assholes, and Rob's
fits
like,
right in your wheelhouse.
Well, I'm like, I just have them on a shelf in my snake room, and Rob's like, you need to put them into one of your colder rooms. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can. Male 8, didn't care, doesn't give a shit. I'm like, okay, whatever, fine. Out there freezing with the other collier birds. Yeah,
it's so hard, man. Like, I'm in here now and it's cold.
Yeah.
It's cold in here.
Yeah, not good. I don't like it. It's just, but no, apparently it's what they like.
Diamonds like. Yeah. And then the one thing that Brett did is that if that didn't work, he would use the brown bag trick where he would put a live fuzzy in there. I've done that with albino carpets, and that's worked.
I have the snake show this weekend, and if I'm not running around like a maniac or crazy, I may take her on a car ride, because sometimes that does it too. If I put her in a deli cup and take her to the show and then come home, put her back in, and then offer her food the next day, sometimes that's enough.
Everybody made fun of us.
I know. They can go to hell.
Like, I'm telling you. And now they're all like,
that's my favorite.
Take on a car ride.
That's my favorite. Somewhere. They're like, that's bullshit. And then they do it, and they're like, son of a bitch. I'm like, that's right. Right.
I don't know why.
Well, I know people told this before, that it's like, well, some things you can take the water from a tuna can and thaw it out with that. I'm like, well, yeah, but I also have I have fish in my freezer. I have silver sides.
Right.
Yeah, I use fish. Like, I know what your water is. That's fish scent is what it is. Like, I can do that too. Like, it's I have to get more of those, because those are awesome. It's when you go to the supermarket, they come in bags, and they're about this big. They vary in size. So they're like fish from this big to this big, and they're silver. They've been deheaded and gutted, and they are
smelts, right?
Yeah, not smelts, because smelts are like greasy. These things they're literally called silver sides. But they're fantastic. They're great. All snakes love them. It's like, yeah,
really. Okay.
Oh yeah, they're small enough that I got a corn snake to eat a couple.
Oh wow. Okay.
But that's what I use for scenting for the rhinos, because then I take whatever fish I use to scent and I throw them in a bowl for the false water cobra, the Vietnamese blue beauties, the mad hogs, whatever else I got to feed. So it's because I was buying tilapia fillets, like frozen bags of tilapia fillets.
Yeah.
It's like $16, $17 a bag now. It's like, it's getting a little dicey here.
It used to be when I started in seafood, cutting fish, they were like, that was like a throwaway fish.
Yeah. They're go to hell. I mean, I can get, there's a couple things, like you said, smelt, if it's not, or some of the kind of fish that like it has skin on it that you can get at like Walmart, and it comes in big bags too. That's a good one.
Whiting.
It's whiting. Yeah, it's whiting with skin on it.
Whiting. Yeah. That's usually the go-to.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one too.
Tasting fish.
Smelt. I got a bunch of smelts, and the problem is that they were just greasy as hell. They're crappy to fall.
Well, they are. They're oily.
Yeah.
You know?
It was horrible. Just bad. It's not good.
They don't taste too good either.
And the
we used to feed it to the caiman when I was a kid. That was my job. My dad would have me go to the caiman cage, just feed them frozen. Well, they wouldn't be frozen, but
the snakes were not. The snakes were not impressed. Some of them would eat it, some of them not. Snakes love trout. I'll tell you right now, I'll thaw out a trout and cut it into pieces because I learned my lesson about giving a snake a whole trout. And they'll eat the hell out of that. So,
yeah. I was going to say, just a tip, because I guess, I don't know if there's anything else to hit on it at this point, but I think we covered a lot of it. But the tip that I would say is I got this tip from Matt, and this used to be how I would, sort of label my tubs, so that especially when you're looking at it, right? You have a rack, let's say, of these 6-quart tubs, and you're sort of looking at it from afar. It's kind of easy if you have some kind of system in place. Matt uses these circles, right? And basically, what I would do is green circle mean an 8. And then, I would put a blue for a boy and a red for a girl. So that way, if the cage card got lost or whatever, I could sort of look at it and see it from afar. And then as it would eat, Matt and I sort of adopted the same thing, would just put a little mark on the green sticker. So it's easy to sort of look at it and sort of see it, from afar especially when you have a lot of babies. That year that I produced all those clutches, it was like I need some kind of system, and I started helping Matt with sexting not the rough scales. I did that too, but the Borneos, and I sort of looked at his his system and whatnot. I really thought that was a great idea that he had of how he does it. So there you go. It's like those little sticker dots that you can get them at Walmart or whatever.
I've thought about those. It's just I end up. That's just the way I am. Is I know who my problem children are, and you are all in my they live rent free in my brain until they start eating. Yeah, I know who they are. I know where they are. I know what bin they're in, and I know what's pissing me off about them. So, I definitely know those kids.
Yeah, it seems like that's funny, right? You're more of you learn more of you keep it in you. I sort of have to have it written down in order for my brain and my brain and my hand have to connect. I get maybe it's from playing guitar. I don't know, but there's a connection that has to happen by me writing it, and then all of a sudden I'll remember.
And I would say that I want to say I was so ingrained with data and cage cards and keeping when I was working at the labs and things like that it was at home, I didn't want to do it anymore.
Fuck that.
No.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
If you can remember it, what do you need it for?
Well, it's what was the point? I spent all day weighing and dosing mice and writing on cage cards, and I come home and they're like, how much does a snake weigh? I don't fucking know. I don't know because I didn't do it. I don't care.
Right.
So, and that's just kind of stuck with.
Here's another tip that I use currently. That for years when it came to keeping track of babies, at first I did it. I used index cards. My problem with the index cards would be, no matter what happened, they would get wet and the ink would run and all that kind of shit, and and then it looks shitty after an amount of time or whatever. And then I never had any place to put them because it didn't fit on the 6-quart tub, right? So I tried to do the smaller half-size index card, and then that didn't seem to help it at all. But ultimately, and then for a while I was using QR codes. But that was a pain in the ass because then you got to your phone, and it's
and now I'm done feeding, and now it's time to relax. Now come 2 hours of data entry. No.
Yeah. So what I found is so there's on my herping trips, right? I take this a notebook, and it's called Write in the Rain. And basically the paper can get wet. It's made for outside. If you're taking data of some sort outside, that you have this paper that's waterproof basically. And And I was curious to see if they had index cards, and don't you know, they did. So now that problem of the smudgy thing is gone. Over. The index cards is like smaller, so they're like a little more of a square type of thing. I bought them on Amazon. They're great. I freaking love them. So there's another tip. For the people.
I have half index cards, and then it usually helps me track feedings and shedding and stuff like that until eventually the snake is rocking and rolling and going.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
right.
And I just stop. It's just like all of a sudden I just stopped keeping track, and I'm like, oh my God, this snake hasn't eaten since January? That's not true. Like it's no.
Right.
No.
I think what I found is like a lot of times sometimes people want that information. Like Nick, everybody that's bought snakes from Nick has that. He has his system where you get the sticker, he takes it off the tub, and he puts it on your belly cup, and there you go.
I'm able to
tell you
and
all that kind of stuff.
I'm able to tell you the last time it ate, or when it should be eating next. And if you ask me, I cannot tell you the last time it shed. It did it well, and it's not hanging off of it. I think that's the best you can do. And then I can tell you hatch dates, because what I've started to do is every time something's hatching, I take a picture of it and put it on my Instagram. And it's like, when did that happen? Hang on. Then.
I thought you had it written down. You're just looking at Instagram.
It's all right there. Yeah, it's all right there.
I thought you've turned a corner.
Oh, please. Come now. I don't have a book.
Oh, shit. I lost my train of thought. I was just going to say something.
Or
we were talking about cage.
Or do I have a book?
Oh, I know you have a book. There's no way you don't have a book. Stop lying to the people. You definitely have a book. There's no way you can have all those animals and not have some kind of writing.
Of what I have a Word document of my breeding schedules, which I have shared with a very few people of what I do and go through. And to be honest, if you pay attention during the 18 different goddamn breeding episodes we've done, I probably divulge all my information. It's probably there. So
we've shared all the secrets.
It's all right there. You just have to look. So
I think I only would for me, whenever I would weighing them when they were born or stuff like that, it wasn't really for anything other than me trying to learn with hands-on, right? So
I think I weighed the first Roughy baby because I wanted to know.
Right.
But I didn't write it down. I don't remember it, but I want to say it was what's average for carpet? 5 grams?
Carpets? 22, 25?
Really?
Oh, chondros?
Or what's
baby carpets?
Baby carpets. Like what, 20?
22 to 29 has been.
All right. They weren't that, and I don't think they were 5 grams either. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I say there's sort of in between the carpet and the contract.
Well, again, that's the thing is it's every time we have some sort of milestone or some sort of thing with them, it's a little fork in the road. Are we going to go chondro or are we going to go carpet? Which way we going here? Right. And more often they go carpet. So...
Well, according to, I said this at the beginning, according to Weigel's information, they're about 16 grams when they hatch.
16?
Roughly,
yeah, that's about right. I think
16 grams. Yeah.
I want to say it was 15. I want to say it was that.
Yeah. Right.
I'm never going to get to that point where I'm I need to know the exact weight of the baby when it was born. And now it's weigh day where we're going to weigh all the animals to figure out what they are this month. And I'm if that's your thing, cool. If you work in a laboratory or a zoo setting, fine. You have to do that, but I can't do it. I can't.
I think it's the herpetology wannabe nerd in me that wants to know that, because I feel like with me, there was a lot of, especially when we started NPR, I was more into that, because I just felt like in order to talk on the podcast, I had to have that data
to smart,
be able to talk about it. Yeah, but just in order to talk to somebody about something, if you have that in your head, then you can sort of say, oh, yeah, this is what they are or whatever. And sort of, I don't know. It's like when somebody said something, you would hear, we would listen to Nick talk about, let's say the size of baby carpets or something.
Yeah.
You're it's the size of a chicken egg. I don't remember, I couldn't figure out for the life of me like what the size of a carpet python egg is. So I produced carpet pythons, and then I'm like, oh, that's the size.
That's
okay,
how big
now
it is. So
right.
It's really hard to do that. Like people, I think the last breeding episode that was me and Lucas, they're like, when do you do it? I'm like, normal carpet temps. What are those? Oh yeah, I guess I should go into that. Like, yeah, normal carpet shit. What are those? Yeah. Oh, right, yeah. It's like it's hard to explain. It's today. Like, you know, how big were the eggs? About the size of a carpet. Yes, they were.
I had somebody today asking about older episodes of Green Tree Pythons.
Okay.
And they were looking for the one with Francis on it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit. So I go and I'm like, oh man, I have to go look on Blog Talk. And I'm like sort of giving the warning. I'm like, dude, I don't know how.
I don't think you want to do this.
Like,
well, yeah.
I don't think, I don't know. I mean, you can listen to it or whatever, but like, you can't judge us based off of what's happening today in podcasting.
Yeah.
Because remember, we were doing podcasting before podcasting was a thing.
Yeah.
And the sound is going to be shit. And I'm just forewarning you. He's like, I want to hear you guys at your worst. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that's not even the worst, but all right. It's like, okay.
Yeah, sure. Episode 1 would be the worst.
I mean, it is the worst. Yeah. Yep.
But fuck, man, I had to do it so that we could get the ball rolling, you know? So I'm glad I did it. It is what it is.
None of you all were doing
otherwise,
it.
Yes. Or otherwise, Owen would have like 3 snakes.
Yeah. I'd be a happy man with my 4 coastals. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not even sure if I'd be doing shows or I'd have rough scale pythons at this point. This is all your goddamn fault. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Stupid ass answering the post.
I guess, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Damn, Morelia forums.
Stupid Morelia forums. Screwed me. Yeah.
Just
I
don't know. I guess that's
you admitted
the one question I did want to ask.
Get out.
You admitted
Get out.
Eric, don't let this go. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. He admitted it. It's your fault, not mine.
He can't hear you. He can't hear you.
Lie.
No, he can't. I don't. No, he can't. No, he can't.
But he's laughing.
He's not. That's not happening. You're ruining the show. You are.
You admitted it. I had comedic relief and truth.
It's my fault.
Truth.
I did it.
Justice.
I'm gonna have to live with that
say
now.
That for 12 years.
Yeah, it's.
She's been waiting at the door for 12 years to say it's his fault.
I fear you may be correct, and I'm going to live with that now. So
I'm sorry, sir.
Just cut that. Just cut all that.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't cut it.
She's still yelling. Yep. Yep.
That's going into Patreon.
Of course she is.
Yeah. Real quick before we close out.
Yeah.
Did the babies do the color change or just the adults?
No, I haven't seen any of them do that like silvery color change.
Okay.
Trust me, I've been looking. Also, no matter how mad I get them, none of them are doing the threat display.
They never do.
And I'm like, I thought you guys would be like all revved up because you're babies. Like, you know, my Vietnamese blue beauties when they were babies were hooding, were hissing, were doing all that shit. Then they got big enough and they're like, I don't really give a damn. I was expecting threat displays, all that. Nothing. No one cares.
Nothing.
Like, they don't give a shit. It's a great disappointment.
Right.
But I guess that's also part of it is that they're doing so well because I don't keep them under a constant threat. So.
Right.
Yeah.
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 They know you're the rough scale whisperer.
God, one can only hope.
Yes. All right, that's going to be all for us. If you want to support us, you have some ways that you can. You can follow us on NPR Network on the socials. You can subscribe to the show, share the podcast. It always helps get the word out there for us. If we even need the word getting out there for us, I don't even care if the word is out there. It doesn't
matter if
you're into Morelia and pythons. This is your spot.
Yeah.
Cold-blooded caffeine. We do an affiliate link with them for the NPR blend, carpets and coffee. We're happy to be with them. The MPR10 will get you 10% off the order. And if you use that link, we get a little kickback. And the best thing is that 5% of the proceeds from every bag sold is donated to wildlife conservation in coffee producing countries, which is awesome.
Nice.
So Trey, Hall, and McKendrick Dunn are great guys, and you and us are all proud to be affiliated with them.
Yeah.
You know how much I love coffee. Cold Blooded Cafe, another great group of people. We all know the price of rodents is crazy.
Yep.
So if you are hopefully breeding rough scales this season, you want to get ahead with some fuzzies, and this is your first time ordering from them, you can use the code MPR10. That will save you 10% off your first order. Follow them on the socials because they do deals
all the time.
So sales all the time. So
check that stuff out. And obviously they have a good array of other things. I know they're supposed to be adding quail and more things to their menu soon. So hopefully that will come. And I have been feeding the inside circle by telling Chris that he better start breeding button quail or offering button quail, so help him God. So, I keep showing every time I get a roughie to eat, or every time I have a roughie or something eating a button quail, I send him a picture. Be like, look,
send him a picture.
It's the size of a fuzzy. You're like, look at it. So I'm working.
Chop.
Yeah. That's a good place to do that kind of stuff.
Okay. And then what else do we have? We have our down in the show notes, you can see our links for the merch store. We also have our Patreon and our website, MoreliaPythonRadio.com. And if you want to get in touch with us, MoreliaPythonRadio@gmail.com. That's the best way to do it. I've been working on the website, chipping away. So slowly but surely, that will become a spot for everything you want to learn about Morelia.
Sweet.
That's all I got.
Yeah. That's all I have. Obviously, I'll update the website after these next couple shows that are coming up. But if you have any interest in any of the animals that we have, it's rogue-reptiles.com. It's also rogue_reptiles on Instagram. You can go follow. Usually I post up when things are for sale, as well as new clutches or anything like that. There are roughies, white lips, a bunch of stuff for sale right now. So, and I doubt I'm going to sell out at an Oak show, but who knows? So, definitely reach out, and we'll catch everybody back here next week for some more Morelia Python Radio. Good night.